Menards will sell you almost anything: lumber, trusses, paint, dog food. It will not sell you a Milwaukee tool. Not one. Menards is based in Eau Claire, 4 hours up the road from Milwaukee Tool's own front door. More than 340 stores, dozens in Milwaukee's home state. And Menards isn't even on the brand's authorized retailer list. That isn't a supply problem. That's a decision. And decisions like it are why your battery platform gets picked for you. So why doesn't Menards want Milwaukee? And why can't Home Depot live without it? To see why that's strange, look at what Milwaukee has become. Milwaukee is an American brand with a Hong Kong owner. Techtronic Industries bought it in 2005 for about $626 million. And last year, that group did just over $15 billion in sales. Milwaukee is the flagship. It grew nearly 8% last year, and that was after Techtronic deliberately pulled some promotions because of tariffs. Retailers fight for brands like that. One retailer won, and won early. Home Depot. More than 2,300 stores. Over $160 billion a year. Techtronic has described it as a home center exclusive relationship, and Home Depot handed the company 3 Supplier of the Year awards in a single year. So this is not a story about a small chain that couldn't get Milwaukee. It's a story about a chain that built a business where Milwaukee doesn't fit. Menards is not a normal big box. It's private. John Menard Jr. started building pole barns in Eau Claire in 1958. And his family still runs the company today. About 45,000 employees, roughly $13 billion a year, though nobody outside the family sees audited numbers because Menards never has to publish them. 15 states and never a store on either coast, which means it almost never fights Home Depot on Home Depot's best ground. Now look at what's on the shelf. No Milwaukee, no Makita either. What it does have is Masterforce, a house brand you cannot buy anywhere else, with more than 400 hand tools alone, built by contract manufacturers and sold under Menards' name at Menards margin. Then there's the part most people miss. Menards owns Midwest manufacturing. It makes its own doors, its own trusses, its own millwork. It opened its first truss plant back in the 1960s and has been making its own building materials ever since. So ask what Menards actually is. It isn't a tool store with lumber out back. It's a lumberyard with a store attached, and a national tool brand, price matched at every competitor in the country, sold at whatever margin the manufacturer allows, does very little for that business. Which raises a harder question. If Menards can run more than 340 stores without Milwaukee, why can't Home Depot? Walk Home Depot's cordless aisle and count who owns it. Ryobi, exclusive to Home Depot. Rigid power tools, exclusive to Home Depot. And Milwaukee, which no other national home center in the country carries. Not Lowe's, not Menards. That means the entire cordless ladder, from the homeowner buying his first drill to the electrician spending thousands a year, sits inside one retailer, and 3 rungs of that ladder come from the same supplier. Home Depot doesn't hide the logic. In its own investor materials, the company points to exclusive brands and a loyalty effect that keeps customers coming back to add to the battery platform they already own. It has also committed to shifting at least 85% of its outdoor lawn equipment sales to battery power by 2028, which only deepens the dependence on whoever supplies those batteries. Now set that against the rest of the business. Professionals are now roughly half of Home Depot's revenue. The company sizes the professional market at around $600 billion. It spent $18 billion buying SRS distribution, then another $5.5 billion on GMS, rebuilding itself into something closer to a construction supply house than a hardware store. But there's one thing none of that buys. A roofing distributor doesn't make a framer pull into the parking lot at 6 in the morning. Something else does. He's there because his batteries are there. And that's where this stops being a story about drills and starts being a story about doorways. Menards doesn't need Milwaukee because Menards sells the project. The deck, the shingles, the studs, the windows. That customer is already coming for materials, and whatever tool he passes on the way to the register is a bonus with a house brand margin on it. Home Depot needs Milwaukee because Milwaukee sells the trip. The battery is the reason a pro turns into that parking lot instead of the one across the road. And once he's inside, he isn't buying a drill. He's buying the cart. One chain sells the building. The other sells the reason to show up. And a reason to show up is worth far more than a shelf of tools because it comes back every single week. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe, which makes the most valuable customer in this entire industry the one who hasn't chosen yet. Picture a 23-year-old apprentice buying his first serious tool. He picks up an M18 kit. It isn't a huge purchase, but that battery decides the next 10 years. Every tool he buys after it has to fit that pack, and every one of those tools is sold where his brand has agreements. He isn't a transaction. He's an annuity, and the cheapest one anybody in this industry will ever buy. Home Depot's exclusivity means almost every new Milwaukee convert in America becomes a Home Depot regular by default. Not through service, not through price, through the shape of the shelf. Menards is playing a different game for the same money. It isn't trying to win the apprentice's battery. It's trying to win the homeowner building a deck, hand him a Masterforce tool on the way past, and give him 11% back as store credit he can only spend inside a Menards. Two kinds of lock-in doing the same job. One locks you in with a battery. The other locks you in with a rebate. Neither chain needs the other's strategy because neither is fighting for the same trip. And that's why the missing Milwaukee display at Menards isn't a gap in the assortment. It's the business model. Menards would be renting shelf space to a brand it can't control at a price it can't beat to catch a customer it wasn't chasing. Home Depot rents that same shelf and calls it the front door. Now the argument against everything I've just said. If this is about dependence, the numbers point the other way. Milwaukee is one brand inside a $160 billion retailer, but Techtronic has reported Home Depot at close to half of its total worldwide revenue, about 47% back in 2019. If that partnership ever broke, one of those companies would survive it comfortably, and it would not be the tool company. And Menards is not allergic to national brands. It stocks Bosch. It stocks Metabo HPT. It stocks Skill. So the neat story that Menards only wants house brands doesn't quite hold. There's an honest gap here too. We know Menards doesn't carry Milwaukee. We don't have public evidence of who said no or what terms were ever on the table. Strategy and a failed negotiation look identical from the parking lot. So be precise about what the real risk is. It isn't revenue. Home Depot would survive losing Milwaukee. What it could not easily replace is the reason a professional picks one parking lot over another before sunrise. And that reason is a battery system built by a company Home Depot does not own. Menards has already proved half of that sentence. You can run more than 340 stores, dozens of them in Milwaukee's own home state, and never stock a single one of its tools. Nobody has proved the other half of that sentence. If you want more stories about who really controls the tool aisle, subscribe because there's a war going on in there.